I've worked on 1,400 records in the past 3 years, and I'm gonna share with you kind of like how I was able to do that. In the beginning, when I first started recording vocals, when I was first in the engineer, real producer game, I used to go to my friend's attic and he would rap on my beats. But in order for him to rap on my beats, I had to record, and I never had any like prior experience to recording. I mean, we were in high school and we were in his attic. Obviously, I didn't know much about sound treatment. Of course, I learned as time went on, but this is the very beginning, like 7 years ago, right? And I remember like, I would open up at the time I was using, FL Studio to record vocals. And I remember opening up and putting like reverb on the vocal chain and, compressor on the vocal chain. I didn't really know that each plugin was very important, like which one came first and which one came second. But I was just putting it all into this one vocal chain at the time, and I remember us spending hours on vocal chain and on recording the actual song. That we'd end up like we'd spend a whole night and maybe only make 1 to 2 songs. So I remember that was the beginning where I came from, and it took me forever, to try to get the sound right on each one, especially if working with different artists, right? But then I remember, going to the studio and asking just for advice, just asking, hey, like how do you record? Because I just wanted to learn. At the time, I was just really like so induced and so entranced with like the music and how everything works. And I asked him like how do you make it sound good? And he introduced me to like a vocal chain preset. So these presets, they were kind of like magic to me. Like I remember the first time being in that studio. What? How is this? How is he getting that? And it really just looked like magic to me. And it kind of helped me figure out how to get that perfect vocal chain, within a fraction of the time that it took me. And it just blew my mind. It was like a game changer for me. And it made me realize just, how powerful presets really can be, and how they speed up the creative process, especially like when you have an idea that you want to put down on, on a track, on a record, on a song. It's really crucial in those moments that you get it down quickly, because you may forget or it might change, so having those presets really changed my mind. And by the way, if you want, my recording template, you can just go down to my school. I put the link in the description. You could just join, and in there you can have all my recording templates. Basically, the ones that I learned here at this studio and been using for the past 7 years, you can grab that exact one down in school. But back to the story. So in the beginning, I was making music in an attic. Like I didn't know anything about sound treatment or anything. But most importantly, like it took forever to put the vocal chain together and get, my artist to do really good takes on it, because when you don't have good plugins or if you don't know what you're doing inside of the software, like you got to ask the artist to do more stuff, because it's not going to sound good if you don't know what you're doing inside. So you're going to ask them, hey, can you do another take, when really, when I found out years later, after having him be recorded by the same engineer that I learned from, he went on and got recorded by him, and I just saw he literally one taked it instead of having to do like 20, 30 takes with me years ago. I remember like being in the studio with both of them, and they literally one took it and it sounded amazing. Like, and I was like, wow, it was not the fact that we didn't sound good. Of course, within years go by, you get better, but it was also the fact of knowledge, and like not having the right preset really made a big difference. So in the beginning, yeah, before learning about the preset, before the mentor engineer taught me, Dom, by the way, this is his name. Shout out to Dom. Before he taught me how to, actually have a really good preset, I just had basically my laptop and headphones. Like I remember sometimes we even recorded through the laptop, but we try to make it work with the presets, and you could kind of make it sound good, but I just didn't know. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have a preset. I was just making everything from scratch, like opening up a brand new project and trying to do it all in one take. But that really, if you try to do things like that, it just takes a lot longer, and you'd have to remember so much more. You'd have to remember how everything looked on the other project that you're working on that sounds good. Imagine if you had a project that, wow, this actually sounds good, then you have to start from scratch all over again. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, you, what you, what I mean, what I ought to do and what I've done is just create a template with the presets and just recreate that feeling, recreate that sound. But now you can make it a little bit different, and there you go. Now you start to have a style, right? And actually, before I met this engineer, because when I started going to him, I actually became like let's say, an intern at the studio. And I think that's one of the best ways to learn how to make your own music, is because you go there and you learn for free. I mean, you got to help out X, Y, and Z. You got to clean up. Of course, that comes with it. But like, you're learning a skill that you can use for the rest of your life, especially if you want to take music seriously. And that's an incredible skill, learning how to record yourself, learning how to, make music. What? That's boom. Especially if you find the right people, the right mentors, crazy. But anyway, I remember when I went to a studio in Southside Jamaica. It was like a makeshift somebody's basement, you know what I'm saying? I didn't have a preset at the time. This was like way, way back, 7 years ago, before I learned about presets. And I remember just going in there. I was making dope beats, and artists would come in through all the time, and they'd always be wanting to record, but I didn't know how to at the time. But there was this other engineer that was in there, and it was his house, it was his studio, and he basically put together a makeshift recording template with presets on it, presets of reverb or compressor. And if you don't know what those are basically just plugins that you put together in your project to make your vocals sound good, right? And so he put that together for me, and for the first time it clicked that having a recording template is like what you need in order to make it happen faster, make the song sound better, and just be prepared, when you go into the studio. So that way, you not only you look like the expert, but you are the expert because you have some preparation coming into the studio, right? And so when that happened, then I realized, like, I need to get a real professional recording template, because I had this one that he made for me, and I was using it for about a couple months. Sound pretty good. I was still learning, still trying my best. But when I went to this studio in Brooklyn, and I asked him, I literally went there. Usually studios will accept payment from artists, right? Because they want to record with an engineer. What was different was, for me, I was a producer. I didn't pay for the studio time to record a song. No, I paid it. I paid the studio just time with the head engineer, just so that way I could learn and get this recording template from him, get these presets from him. I literally just brought out a notepad, and I was asking him, like, how'd you do this? Because I remember going into one studio session with him, the very, very beginning, the first time I went to the studio, and he made this artist that I brought sound so good. I had to come back a second time and just ask Dom, like, how did you make this sound so good? And I really just came there to learn, not to tell him to record somebody else, not to, you know, tell him about what I do, like, not soliciting his time. I really just came there. I was like, I paid him first and foremost, and then I was like, I just want to learn. I want to learn how you did this. And I think from that point, like, he really saw something in me, and the next day they were like, hey, do you want to be an intern here? And I'm like, hell yeah, I wanna. I want to learn. I just got a nibble of it that day, and I was like, if I can go there every time and learn it for free, why not? And that was a really good ROI, I think, of my time. Going to a studio, interning for them. Yeah, you got to do some chores, but man, I learned this skill that I'm gonna have for the rest of my life. And I'm gonna have the recording tablet too. I'm gonna have the preset. I'm gonna have the secret sauce, so that way I can go off and record my own artists, which is what I did for the past 7 years, and mix and master artists. That's literally what I do for a living now. So, by the way, if you want me to mix and master your songs or create custom beats for you, I'll put the link in the bio. Go to actually just go to school in the community. Just join that, and we can help you with that as well. So, with that being said, yeah. To sum it all up, create your own presets. It doesn't even have to be that crazy. I have recording templates in the description if you join my community, but you can start off with somebody else's preset like I did with his. I started off with that, and that can be like about 60% of the way there, right? Because you can put your own plugins, or you can put your own sauce on that vocal chain, on that preset that you have, to make your sound. Like, you can adjust it. You don't have to always use somebody else's preset. You can adjust it, maybe make it a little bit different here and there. The more you use it, that way you can actually start building your own sound. Because I realized when I was going from studio to studio before I learned about this preset from this head engineer, I would go from recording studio, and it's like every time I went to their studio, they would take so long putting together, like an hour at least. Like, we're done with the recording, and we're just sitting there letting this guy mix and master. Which, if you're in a studio, you want the song to sound good from the jump. I know every artist wants that. They want it to be fast. They want them to be the ones recording and taking up the time, versus the engineer just sitting there clicking and testing things out. And it doesn't. I know how artists feel when they go to the studio, and they feel like the engineer is taking up their time by just trying things and putting the preset together. So it really shows a level of expertise when you come prepared to the studio with a preset that makes the vocals sound good from the jump. So, back to my story, I was going from place to place all over Queens, studio to studio, and it wouldn't sound good from the jump. And I realized, like, if I ever find a studio that made it sound good from the jump, man, I gotta learn. And which had happened, which is what I did. And then I started interning for them, so I had months of just working with them and just figuring out really how they made this sound so good. Because the problem is, well, not problem. Well, the thing is, when you use a recording template or a preset, there's a certain sound that preset has. Like, let's say if the preset has an EQ first, and then a compression, and then a reverb, and then a delay, like, that chain of plugins will create a certain sound, versus if you had a compressor first, then an EQ, then a delay, then a reverb. Like, it matters which one comes first. And so every preset is different. And because every preset is different, ultimately they all create different sounds. So the preset that I have, what my artists like about it is that the preset allows your vocals to pop out in front in the mix, which is the most important thing for a song, is the lyrics and the vocals to pop out on top of the instrumental. It cuts right through the beat, right? That's how hits are made, because they sound so infectious. You hear the chorus, it pops out, and when you're not listening to the music and not listening to the track, you're replaying the catchy hook in your head. And that's what really gives it that oomph. That a hit song is when the vocals, you just hearing it in the back of your head, even though you're not listening to the song at all. I think that's really important, is having those vocals pop out. So this recording template, allows you to. These presets allow you to. By the way, if you want them, they're in the link in the description. Anyway, so so kind of coming back to the fact that every vocal preset is different, and of course I would suggest using mine or somebody else's if you find somebody else's that sounds good too. You know, if you don't have to feel constrained to it, you can always add to it, make it your own, adjust it. So there's nothing wrong with, using presets, and it's not like you're lazy. No, that's not even a thing. That no, like it's I think that's a a belief that's not true, is thinking that having tools, templates, and presets is lazy. It's not true. It's just not. It's smart, is what it is. And if anybody tells you otherwise, send them this video and I'll fight for you. No, I'm playing. But anyway, that's it. That's the end of the video. And I hope you got some gems from this. Yeah, I hope you was able to feel like, oh, why don't I start using presets right now? So, so if you want, my preset, go to the description below and join my community. And it's all, FL Studio, Pro Tools, whatever you use, BandLab on your phone. It doesn't matter what you use. Grab the preset below, grab the recording templates, and make them your own. Because having a recording template that has been tested time and time with 1,400 records, having one that sounds good from the get, you already are like ahead of the curve from everybody else who's trying to do music and their mixes sound bad. You're already ahead of the curve. Now you can just play with it and make it your own. Be creative. All right? Peace.